Well, hey, it's Friday. Let's have a question and conversation. Today's question is such a beautiful question because it gives us an opportunity to talk about one of the most beautiful songs, most beautiful poems, most beautiful psalms ever written. Truly, if you want to talk about the greatest songwriters of all time, man, it might start and finish with King David. Listen to this. The question is, what is meant by the first two verses of Psalm 19? The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. Day to day pours out speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. Man, let's walk through just the first 6 verses of this psalm. But first of all, let's remember, anytime we're reading the Psalms, we're reading poetry, and it's a poetic expression. And while it is poetry, it does say something true. In fact, in many ways, a poem, a song, a story can tell you a deeper truth than just a statement of fact can. So let's talk about what is the grand truth that David is conveying here in Psalm 19. First of all, he's saying something about the glory of God. He's saying the heavens. So we might need to think about an ancient view of cosmology. So there was the earth below, and then Sheol below that, and then the heavens were the visible universe, like everything you could see. So it would include the stars. And, you kind of look up and it looks like a dome. It looks like a canopy. And we still talk like this, right? We still talk about up there where the stars are and the dome and the whole thing. And that's the way it just looks from earth. And so David is looking up at this beautiful scene and he's saying, oh my gosh, the heavens declare the glory of God. So glory is, I always say this about, you've heard me say this before, if you want to think about a proper definition of the word glory, think about a spotlight. There might be many things going on the stage, and yet a spotlight comes onto the soloist, comes on and tells you where to direct your attention at the right time. This is the person we're paying attention to. The spotlight, it puts the glory on that person. And so David is looking up and saying, man, when I look at the heavens above, when I consider nature, all of this speaks to putting the spotlight on God. It tells me something important about God. It takes my attention from the things around me, and instead my attention is on the Creator. So the heavens declare the glory of God. The sky above proclaims his handiwork. David firmly understands and believes that God is the creator of creation. And he looks around at the way the world is put together and says, oh, the more I understand about the natural world, the more I appreciate, whether it's with a scientific eye or an artistic eye, the more I learn about, the more I appreciate the detail of and the beauty of the natural world. The more I learn, the more I understand, the more I know about the one who created it. And then verse 2 is, again, this poetic outpouring of the truth that nature is always. There's not just sometimes that nature is declaring the glory of God, but rather day to day pours out speech. Nature is screaming the glory of God day to day, all the time. And when it says pours out speech, there's a hint there. There's an echo of it was by the word that God spoke existence into, or spoke creation into existence. And David is hearing that echo still, saying, every day I look around and I see things that put the spotlight on God. Day to day pours out speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. He looks at the stars and he says, I'm learning things. Things are being revealed to me as I look at the night sky. And then he says, there is no speech, nor are there words whose voice is not heard. So this is, the Apostle Paul is going to latch onto this in Romans and say, no one is without reason to believe in God. Like no one is able to say, well, I knew nothing of God. No, you're without excuse. The glory of God is declared in the heavens. Every night to look up is to learn a little something about God. Verse 4 says, their voice goes out from all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. You've never been on a hike. You've never been on the ocean. You've never been in your backyard without seeing the glory of God proclaimed. So continuing in verse 4, and their words to the end of the earth, in them he has set a tent for the sun. So David looks and he sees how the sun goes and he's like, man, God has made a course for it. It's not just randomly happening. God set up some order here. So in them he has set a tent for the sun, which comes out like a bridegroom leaving his chamber, and like a strong man runs its course with joy. David looks at the sun and goes, look how this happens every day. This is teaching me about the faithfulness of God. The sun never creeps out. No, like a bridegroom who's just here for his big day. The sun comes up and goes across the sky, and this happens every day. There's order to it. There's faithfulness to it. Its rising is from the end of the heavens, and its circuit to the end of them. So all the way, he says, look, there's nobody who misses this. This takes up the whole sky as the day goes on, and there is nothing hidden from its heat. David says, there's no person on the earth that is able to say, well, I knew nothing of God. So we learn a little bit about the glory of God in Psalm 19. We learn something about the way the ancient people saw the world and go, yeah, we still see the world kind of like that. I mean, we know that the earth is the one spinning and not the sun and the whole thing, but yet still a child can go outside, look up, and go, I'm learning something about the Creator as I see the order and the glory of nature. You know, really, I'm mindful that this is so important in our time. David here is basically laying out a very classic proof for the existence of God. It's the teleological argument for the existence of God, or the watchmaker argument. And the argument goes something like this. If you were walking on a beach and you picked up a watch and you looked at how intricately it was put together, you would not say, oh, this must have randomly happened. No, instead, you would intuitively that something with that kind of intricate design, would require a designer. That something that speaks to design, the most natural understanding is that there was a designer. And this, 3,000 years ago, David looked up in the sky and thought exactly that. There is order to the world. And the more we learn about the world, and Christians, let's lean into scientific discovery. Without Christianity, there would be no scientific discovery. Christianity, the proclamation that God is a God of order and that the universe is ordered, that's the ground out of which science sprang. And we should be those who are saying, no, scientific discovery is worship. This is how we are learning about God. The reason we can expect things to work in a certain way is because it has a creator, it has a designer. Things aren't random. And so David is making this case for this watchmaker, this designer argument that I think is still important. So whether we're looking at it with an artist's eye and going, man, I'm overwhelmed by the beauty. This speaks to an eternal painter. Or whether we're looking at it with a scientific eye and saying, wow, why is it that gravity works in just such a way and that light works in just such a way? And the more we learn about the intricacies of the way the world works, the more we understand the order of it. The more we understand, man, this world was put together with intricate, delicate details, balanced together just perfectly so that we might not only be here, but that we might experience the world, and also that we might be those who look around and say, man, as I look at the order and the beauty in the world, it teaches me something about God. So from King David to John Lennox now, go look up John Lennox. He has great answers for this. We still look up and say, man, the spotlight is on God as I look at a redwood tree. Have a great day.